Hey, good evening and welcome to this live stream event brought to you by Monte Vista Christian School in Watsonville. My name is Devin Kleffer. I am a faculty member at Monte Vista Christian, and I get to be your host on our live stream tonight. Tonight's topic, we're talking about participation in the fine arts and how fine arts can really be a benefit to your learner and your family as well. Just to give a little bit of a preview for what to expect tonight, we've got a Q&A session that I'll be hosting. We've got a fantastic panel lined up that includes our Director of Fine Arts. We have a Fine Arts faculty member. We've got 2 fine arts students, and we've got a parent of 2 other fine arts students who are not part of the panel tonight. As always, questions might come up that you have, and we would, of course, love those. Down at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, there's a little tab that says Q&A. That's where you can type your questions, and then either you'll be responded to via the chat, or one of our behind-the-scenes directors will actually put it into our show notes for tonight, and we'll get to that later tonight. In some cases, some of you might have the same question or similar questions, and I'll do my best to combine those and take care of that. I also want to remind you that we've got this really a special drawing going on. If this is your first time joining us live, we are glad you're here. Here is the deal with our drawing. For each time that you attend a live web stream, you've got this week and then the next 2 weeks coming up. Each time you attend a live web stream, your household automatically gets entered to win a $500 tuition discount for the next school year. That's the 2022-2023 school year. And so if you are watching this live, congrats, you're already entered for that drawing, for that chance to win that. Let's go ahead and jump into our panel tonight. Let me welcome our panelists. Morgan Perez, the Director of Fine Arts. Welcome, Morgan. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got Bill Tunn, who is faculty member. Welcome, Mr. Tunn. 2 of our Rockstar Fine Arts students. We've got Sam Moore and Bella Dunbar. Welcome. And then we've got Darlene Sawyer, who is joining us tonight as part of our panel, who again has 2 of her kids in Monte Vista's fine art program. So thanks for joining us tonight, panelists. We want to go ahead and get into our questions. Morgan, let's begin with you tonight. As Director of the Fine Arts at Monte Vista Christian, I guess first, paint a little picture for us. What all does that mean? What all is involved with the fine arts?
Hi, everyone. Welcome tonight. Thank you, Devin, for hosting. This is such a great question, and it's such an exciting time right now at Monte Vista with our fine arts department and program. It's just, we have seen so much growth. There's so much opportunity at Monte Vista. So if I were to paint a little picture for everyone watching tonight, that picture would be all over our campus, just different areas to get involved in the arts. So that big umbrella of fine arts, there's many different courses and programs that are both curricular and extracurricular for 6th graders all the way through our seniors who are graduating. We just have so much going on and so much to offer right now. So it's just a really exciting time. I think especially now, also with students coming back on campus after this kind of weird season we've been in, there's just so much buzz and enthusiasm. So just tremendous growth, lots of opportunity under that big umbrella of fine arts that we're going to talk about tonight.
Awesome. Morgan, let me follow up just a moment. And can you give us a little bit of insight? So when we start talking about fine arts, our students tonight, Bella and Sam, are outstanding within the theatric departments, the theater department at MVC, but we've also got other arts that are not part of theater. Can you just give us a window of insight into what some of those other courses are?
Yeah. So when we say fine arts department, that big umbrella, we're talking about our visual and performing arts. So all of the disciplines that fall under performing arts would be our music program, instrumental and vocal, our theater program, performing that triple threat, acting, singing, dancing. We have a dance program. So all of those programs that are really performing for audiences, that's our performing arts program. And then we have our visual arts program. There's some intersect there, but that would be our traditional art courses, 2D art, 3D art. We have a ceramics program, photography, graphic design. We have a film program, lots of student filmmakers. So there's a lot in there. I think podcast falls into there as well.
It does.
Even yearbook and some of our journalism programs fall into there, where we're using, our English department and photography coming together. So lots of course offerings under that big umbrella that we just say fine arts.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Bill, let me come to you. You are a member of the fine arts faculty, and you have taught a variety of classes over your time at MVC. Let me ask you this, though, because one of the first things that often gets cut in public schools is the arts program, which is a travesty, no doubt about it. But that also means a lot of learners are coming to Monte Vista maybe in sixth grade, maybe as a ninth grader, and they often don't have any background with the fine arts. And so from your perspective as a faculty member, what can you offer, I guess, as a bit of encouragement to someone that might think about attending MVC, but quite frankly, be a little bit intimidated by entering into an arts program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can speak for myself, and I know that as I'm speaking, I think of Dr. Daner, I think of Ms. Perez, I think of just about everybody in our department. And I know that everybody has a heart for reaching the students where they are. So for instance, if you take my 6th period middle school guitar class right now, I have a student who's studying privately. I also have some students that I had last semester, and then I actually had 2 students join today that have never touched a guitar in their lives. So, we really differentiate instructions just to make sure that we reach all students where they are exactly. And there's always going to be, we never turn anyone away. There's always going to be a special spot for each kid. I think of band, we're going to go on to Disneyland here in a couple of weeks to perform at a heritage festival. And, we're taking some seasoned seniors along with us, but there are actually some middle schoolers that are joining us, like some 7th graders that are going to be on the same exact trip, performing the same music. So, part of it is as a composer, arranger myself, what I try to do is I try to arrange music so there's an appropriate part for each student. So, for somebody that might be a beginning percussionist, say, there might be just a couple notes or a couple just basic rudiments, but then, for somebody who's been playing several years and as a seasoned veteran in the program, they might have a lot more challenging part. But, every single student, regardless of background, they're always welcome in the program. And universally, I know that we've got a couple students here, but it's always a whole lot of fun. So, yeah.
You've painted an incredible picture and an incredibly inviting picture.
And see, that's the thing, I don't even paint. I'm a fiddle player. Isn't that beautiful? So, yeah.
Well played. Well played.
Sorry.
Morgan, one of the things that Bill brought up was that we meet each learner wherever they're at. And that certainly extends well beyond the fine arts program. But let me ask you, in regard to the fine arts program, the arts itself, do you feel as a philosophy and director of this program, are the arts somewhere that everyone, maybe even if they don't feel talented as a quote unquote artist, that they can still find a passion and learn to thrive within the arts?
Absolutely. And I think that I speak for my entire team as artists. Like, we're really passionate about that very thing that you're bringing up, finding students where they are, helping them to discover within our department. And it might not be theater, it might not be band, but there is such a spirit of collaboration, and just finding that right fit that we are collaborating to serve our students. One of the cool ways that we do that also is with the middle school. So there really is the way that the extracurricular, or the electives are structured. They're very exploratory, and so students have they in our 6th grade program, which I'm really just so proud of. This year's all 6th graders are a part of either choir or band. And just to experience it. So they might not take that next year, but they might not have taken a music class had it not been a part of their schedule. And then they have an exploratory wheel course. So they get a quarter of theater and then another quarter of art, and they get to try all these different things. And so then as they grow into up in the middle school, they've got a chance to try all these different disciplines. And, it's not about mastery. It's really just exposure. And students that maybe would not have signed up for a theater class are like, this is actually really cool. And they end up trying it and developing a passion for it.
I love this because that's such a great transition, because I want to bring in our two student panelists tonight, Sam Moore and Bella Dunbar. And Bella, let me begin with you. First off, give us a little bit of insight. When you first came to MVC, did you have any background in any type of arts program? And what was that first experience, some of your earliest memories of becoming part of MVC's fine arts program?
Yeah, so I did have some experience of the arts before. I had done some theater productions with my drama class in my middle school, and I had been a part of like a youth choir. So I had experience before, but nothing like what I experienced at Monte Vista. I remember I came to the school as a freshman, missed out on doing the fall musical because I tried my hand at basketball, which was a mistake. But I decided that I wanted to really do theater, and I decided to audition for the spring musical, which was School of Rock. Remember going there, remember going to the audition and seeing a bunch of like seniors and juniors who had been doing this a lot longer than I had, and who had been doing it at Monte Vista way longer than I had, because I had only been there for like a year. And it was a little nerve-wracking. It was kind of terrifying, actually, but that was an incredible experience to have. And then just continuing to do the shows, continuing to learn and continuing to grow. And yeah, doing every show I can.
Well said. Now, as a senior, I have to ask, I've got to follow up with you. As a senior, do you now see some of those younger students and think back to when you were that age and the experience that you went through?
Oh yeah, totally. When we were doing Wizard of Oz this past fall, there were a lot of middle schoolers in that show. And I remembered what it was like as a freshman, looking up to all the seniors, and they were kind of hanging out with their friends, kind of cliquey, but I wanted to really be that kind of person that they could look up to. So I decided that I would learn every single person in that cast. I would learn their names. And I would, like, every time I would see them, be like, hey, whatever your name is. I would really try to form these connections with these kids who, some of them had never done it before. And then I was able to stage manage the 7th graders production of Charlotte's Web. And that was an incredible experience, because I was really like firsthand seeing them really try their hand at theater, and some of them had never done it before again. And it was really cool to like have these, like, develop these relationships with kids who were younger.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love the fact that you've had that journey throughout your time at MVC. Sam, what about you? What are some of your earliest memories and experiences of joining the fine arts at MVC?
Ooh, feels like so long ago. Geez, time really flies. I mean, 1 second you're, joining the school completely new. You don't know anyone around you. The next, you're getting lead roles in shows, and it's like, whoa, man. Well, let's see here. When I joined the theater program in like freshman year, it also was the first year at the school. One of my core memories was the fact that I was met with almost absolutely no backlash and standoffishness from the students who were already there. As Bella mentioned, there was the seniors there, the seniors in terms of like, yeah, that's where they lengthen the class hierarchy per se, but also the seniors as in, hey, they're veterans. They've been doing that for a while. But all of them were friendly. The environment there was immediately friendly. It aided how comfortable I began to become with not only the environment as a whole, but the students and faculty there as well. In growing my ability on stage, the directors made every note that they gave to me very clear and concise. But it wasn't so much that it limited my ability to flourish and to make each role my own.
I'd love that. Sam, from your perspective and looking at your own journey over the past couple of years within the department, and really, quite frankly, Monte Vista as a whole, how would you describe the growth of your skills and passions as a result of being part of this program?
Well, I'll tell you, my passion has been nothing but amplified as a result of the arts here. Coming into the arts at MVC, I was already quite the theater geek. I'd been in a couple of shows in my day. But the quality of production, the time, the effort that went into everything, to each and every one of those ventures from the fine arts department, whether it be the choral singers, the choir, the actual performing aspects, the big showstopper musicals, it's inspiring. I mean, just looking up at the lights shining down upon you, it propels one to do their best, to thrive. And I really resonate with that.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sam. Darlene, I want to invite you into this conversation. You have got two kiddos that are part of Monte Vista Christian, and one of them, as you came into Monte Vista Christian, one of them leaned more towards athletics than arts.
Absolutely.
And so I guess talk to us a little bit first about what went into the decision of even bringing your family to Monte Vista Christian and for them becoming part of our Learn community. And then we can talk a little bit about the fine arts part of things.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. I have probably bothered Kim for about 10 years. Since I think my kids were in second grade, we had an opportunity to come out to Monte Vista, and it was literally amazing. I know that's an overused word, and awesome is an overused word in our society today, but it just really was. And my kids were teeny, and we walked around and looked at all the beautiful redwoods. And my husband and I just decided then and there that this is where we wanted our kids to go. So I immediately asked Kim, what do we need to do to get on the list? And she said, your kids are 2. You got a little bit of time. I think they were a little bit older than that. But, we kept going back every year, and every year it just kept feeling like this was the right place for us to be. And we've never looked back. My kids started in 6th grade. They're now sophomores, they're twins. And it's really, for our family, it's been a wonderful experience, from the academics to the arts, to the athletics, to the social, to just feeling like my kids are known there. They're cared for, they're loved when we're not there. I just can't imagine a better experience. I think, where do they go from here when they go on to college? What is it, Harvard? Is it Yale? I truly can't imagine a better place. It's just a very good fit. Sammy and Bella are good friends of my children's. The quality of the people that they've met, the quality of the educators. I mean, if we had 3 hours, I couldn't stop espousing the virtues of Morgan and Dr. Tunn. It's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you for that endorsement, first and foremost. Let's talk a little bit about the experience within the fine arts, and how have you seen your kids grow, not just with perhaps their ability to sing or act on stage, but how has it impacted them outside of the classroom and off the stage?
Well, as you mentioned, Devin, I never thought either of my children would be thespians. They seem to be more destined toward athletics. I thought my son, he was definitely pursuing at least an educational career in baseball. My daughter also very athletic, but she dances as well. And as Morgan mentioned, now in 6th grade, the kids are exposed to the fine arts, whether it's through music or through theater. And it was not dissimilar for my kids. They were exposed to that. In fact, it was my daughter that signed up, and my son kind of tagged along, thinking, well, what else am I going to do? I'll go with my sister. And to be honest with you, I think they're both amazing and talented, but my son has been the one, very surprisingly, that has flourished. He's just all in. And that would not have happened in a public school, I will just say. As you mentioned earlier, those are the programs that get cut. Those are the programs that are deemed to be less important. I could think of nothing that's farther than the truth. Whether my children pursue a career in theater, I'm not sure. Who knows? I mean, they're young, but whatever they pursue, Blake has talked about being a pilot. I could just imagine him on the speaker saying, well, singing a song or, making people feel comfortable. Whatever they do with their lives, this experience will only make it better. They will be more confident. They will be more welcomed, I would say. It's been a group of kids that they're just welcoming. There's no drama in drama. There's no downside to what they've learned and what they've experienced. And again, I really will say that a lot of this goes to Mrs. Perez. She's an amazing mentor. She's an amazing strategist. She has a vision. She doesn't stop with what she believes is the right thing to do. And gosh, I feel like a commercial, but it's really been an incredible experience. And no matter what they end up doing, I will honestly tell you that this foundation that they've gotten with theater is something I never expected. And it will serve them well throughout their entire lives. It really will.
Yeah, thank you, Darlene. Well said. And let's touch back on that. And so, Sam and Bella, let me bring you back into the conversation. One of the things that Darlene just brought up was how her kids have really seen their gifting and I guess their ability to self-advocate, to be confident young adults has really grown as a result of this program. And so, Sam, let me begin with you first. How have you seen some of your self-confidence or maybe other areas in your life that are directly tied to your experience of fine arts, but they've grown and they have been beneficial for you outside of fine arts?
Well, I'll be honest. I hold myself to a pretty high standard as far as the bar of self-confidence is concerned. I never really thought that it could be further expanded upon, but boy, was I wrong. Again, with the grandiose nature of the productions here at MVC on all fronts, seeing yourself on that stage, speaking out or performing to a crowd that's excited to see and hear what you have to offer, I find it motivating. That sense of self-worth, that confident feeling, it's all too transferred into my everyday life. My cadence, how I talk to others, how I present myself, it's all there.
Awesome. Bella, how about you? Bella, when it comes to things like just feeling more self-confident, maybe even having like time management skills, things like that have been a byproduct of your time within the arts department, how have you noticed, or what have you noticed yourself grow in other areas that aren't necessarily acting per se?
So I've always been a pretty extroverted person. I've always wanted to perform and wanted to be in the spotlight or whatever. It's ever since I was very small, it's just kind of how I'm wired. But being in the arts, and especially at Monte Vista, it's really helped my self-confidence. Self-confidence is kind of going up and then it goes down and then it goes up and then it goes down. And being a part of the fine arts program here, it's really helped my confidence to go up and stay there. And I can just confidently say that I'm confident in my ability. I am confident in who I am and what I have to offer.
Awesome. Well said. Well said. Bill, Dr. Tun, let me come back to you on this. So we're talking about some of the byproducts that come out of an education that involves fine arts. For the students that come through your classrooms, what are some of the things that you can be confident that they are going to learn that may not necessarily be chords on the guitar or even what notes to hit in a song?
Yeah, so I would say that the first sort of byproduct would be social skills and social interaction, because I've seen time after time after time where, it's the first day of school and there might be a new student that transferred in from somewhere else or shy or whatever it might be. And to see them, develop in the program and sort of come out of the proverbial shell and put the phone down and to do something else, with their hands and with their minds for a while and to, not just musically, but to make a lot of friends, in guitar class or band or whatever it might have been. But and that sort of leads into the culture that I think we've been talking about a lot. Like there's this new presence, like there's this really significant, large, fine arts presence where the majority of the students are involved, that sort of a thing. And it's, the best feeling is that when you walk out of your classroom and you see students that are choosing to walk out together, that just came from your classroom, and they might be, still discussing music or guitar or whatever else, like on their own volition. I think that's like the coolest thing in the world. And it is, like Bella said, it is really a confidence builder because, when you're involved in instrumental arts, you're really learning a new language. It's like learning how to, communicate and speak in something that's completely new, but it's still completely universal. And so students that, to watch them play chords or play music or whatever else, and to learn how to build that characteristic sound and say, hey, that sounds just like I'm in a recording studio. I sound that good now. I've developed that, I've come that far. It's a really awesome confidence builder. I love to watch it.
Well, let me follow up a little bit on that, because you mentioned like being in a recording studio, and actually we're about 2 years into having this brand new building that features and houses the vast majority of the things that our fine arts department does. And Bill, can you just talk a little bit about the facilities that MVC has when it comes to hosting not just the events, but the day in, day out classrooms that we have?
This is my 13th year teaching, and I taught actually at the university level for about 9 years before I came to Monte Vista. And I can tell you, I've never seen any facilities like the ones that we have on campus. I mean, this beautiful brand new building. I mean, it used to be tennis courts when I first got here, and I kind of cruised around and just sort of, it's like this new space, this new building. We see the foundation be poured. We see it all kind of go from nothing. But like to have, I remember meeting with this full-time acoustician that was actually hanging all the baffles on the ceiling just to make sure that the sound is just right, and it's never too loud, but you can whisper on the side of one, and somebody can hear you on the other side. It was beautiful practice rooms. I know that Miss Perez has a much better idea of sort of the inner workings of the building, but I would say that somebody would just have to visit it to just be blown away themselves. I mean, it's really an incredible facility.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Morgan, let me actually bring you back into the conversation. And, one of the things that Bill touched on earlier in our live stream, as far as some of the events that our learners will travel to throughout the year. And can you just give us a little bit of insight into, I guess, one, what are some of the annual things that a student as part of our fine arts department could expect to do at school or on campus? And what are some of the extracurricular after school things that are opportunities, and sometimes, quite frankly, takes them to some pretty amazing places in the world?
Yeah, totally. So we, as a department, we work together each year to create a really robust season. So just as Monte Vista as a school has a theme each year, we have a theme in the fine arts that kind of is a theme that we visit throughout the year with all of our different events. This year was home, and we did the Wizard of Oz, so there's no place like home. So it's loosely woven into everything that we're doing. But that season has a theatrical season that includes many different productions, from seventh graders doing their own play. That's a high level production that's done actually in class. The entire play is rehearsed during the day, so students can still be involved in athletics after school, or if they ride the bus. It's not the commitment of after school. It's a curricular program. So those are a part of our season that we advertise from the very beginning of the year. So we have middle school productions. We have productions that are for everybody, 6th through 12th grade, all school shows like the Wizard of Oz, where everybody can be a part of it. We had about 70 plus students involved in that show. A part of our season is also big collaborative events. So we have events like our Christmas production, which had everyone that is involved in fine arts they were present in some way. So we had film students that were, we had an outdoor little theater that was created to show short films. The band had their own venue where they were playing different music, different things. We had an art gallery, a ceramics gallery, middle school performers, dancers doing street dancing, and it all culminated into this really large Christmas concert. We have another event like that coming up in March, and a celebration of the arts. It's called Bravo. It's a really big, it's one of our premier events. It's a dress-up event. It's just a lot of fun. We love as a team to work together and to produce these big events, but then there also are these smaller events. So Mr. Tun will have an instrumental concert at the end of the year. There'll be recitals scattered throughout the year. So we want to give students, whether it's a class that the sixth graders are in for a short time, or it's a big extracurricular production, we want to showcase their work. That's a really cool thing about being involved in the arts, both the visual arts and the performing arts, is you get to be a part of this thing. You get to create, you work so hard on it, and then you get to share it, So there are other disciplines where you don't really see that essay or that really cool math problem that was solved, but we have the privilege of sharing our work, which is so cool. So we're really committed to having a lot of opportunity to do so.
One of the things that you said in that, and it really just kind of piqued my mind for a moment there, and that is, we do a great job as a learning community, of course, with our fine arts department, but as well as the other departments on campus, of showcasing student work. And I remember a story I heard actually just earlier this week, I believe, and it talked about a student who recalled herself just doodling as an elementary school kid and always feeling so proud whenever mom or dad would actually put those drawings on the refrigerator at home. And then she said that she came to Monte Vista Christian, and as she continued pursuing her love of art, to actually have her art on display in some of our buildings was just mind-blowing to her. And she really treasured those times when MVC as a school took the time to take those opportunities, and whether it was hosting a function like you described or displaying student artwork throughout the year, meant so much to her as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
I'd like to go ahead and I want to transition a little bit. We've got some questions that have come in over the course of our live stream. So let me go ahead. Some of these I'll try to pull together perhaps if there's some overlap, but let's go ahead and knock some of these out. Bella, let me come to you first on this one. One of the things that you brought up earlier was that feeling of, oh no, when you first arrived and seeing all the older kids there. And obviously, especially when it comes to things like theater arts, there could be a good deal of competition in there. And so how would you describe just the overall vibe of the fine arts family that mostly focuses on the theater end of things?
Yeah, so there is a sense of competition, especially with theater, when you're auditioning for a show and different people want the same role or stuff like that. There's always going to be that type of competition in any theater program. But what I've noticed is, and I've done a lot of auditions in my day, but what I've noticed with the way that Monte Vista handles it is they never want to put you in an uncomfortable position. They always make sure that you're comfortable whether you're singing a song, whether you're performing a monologue, whether you're doing scenes with people. It's like they want this to be the least painful process ever, and I very much appreciate that as the many years that I've done this. But yeah, this once you kind of get into the arts, you start really become a part of the family, of the arts family, and that competition sort of kind of goes away, because you may not get the role you wanted, but you see your best friend as like the lead or something. Like, that's so cool, and you're just always cheering each other on, and it's not a very competitive sense once you really get into that program and the family. And
yeah. So if I'm understanding you, Bella, it's competitive, but in a very positive way, where folks are actually cheering each other on and not trying to drag them down.
Yeah, friendly competition. Friendly competition.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you for that window of insight. Bill, let me come back to you. Here's one that's great question here. When it comes to things like the music and some of the other classes, are instruments provided for the music classes? Are students expected to purchase their own or bring their own? How does that work?
Yeah, 100% of the time they've been furnished for students. So we just had this, I have 34 students in my 6th grade band this year. And every single student that didn't purchase one themselves, they were all given an instrument. And then if you come to we actually have almost 70 students in our guitar program. If you come into the classroom, you just see all these guitars up on the walls for sure. So, and there's also storage for students that choose to bring their own instruments. But what a lot of times will happen, especially in guitars, students will have, you know, their own guitar at home that they can practice, and then they'll just have one rented out from the school. But yeah, across the board, the school has been furnishing instruments for students.
Awesome. And you mentioned your guitar class, of course. You also mentioned a band. And so what are some of the other instruments? Is piano an opportunity for either learners to continue their education they've already understood with piano, or something that they can try for the first time?
Yeah, so we have, there are a couple students that play piano in band right now. And of course, those are transferable skills to like xylophone, you know, mallet percussion, that sort of thing. But each of our practice rooms has a piano. So and there's a total of 8 of those. And then there are 2 grand pianos on campus. And yeah, so we don't have a piano class per se, but I have been playing for since I was in 6th grade. And yeah, so I've got some piano chops there that, you know, once in a while I might give a private lesson or something like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Morgan, let me ask you this question. You painted a great picture when it comes to all of the many opportunities, whether it's ceramics or painting, graphic art. You mentioned podcasting, you mentioned video and filmmaking, then of course the theatrical arts. What are the costs associated with this? Is this something where it is going to be in addition to tuition and fees, or is this part of the tuition that Monte Vista offers?
So we are really blessed at Monte Vista. As Mr. Tim was saying, we have really acquired a great inventory of instruments. We're blessed as a fine arts program to be able to, really just let students use a lot of the things that we have in the arts. The same thing in the visual arts. Students have access to cameras and digital video cameras. So the cost in our classes is very minimal. So, I had my boys that they were in a violin program, and we had to rent instruments and pay monthly for those. So most of our students pay a very nominal annual fee, and most of it's just for the maintenance of that instrument, strings and different things that might be needed. I believe it's $35 in the middle school. So that's for the entire music program for the year. So that's just such a small cost when you think of other programs that are out there that are, $400 or $500. The same thing with our vocal arts program and our choral program, and our theater program. So those participation fees are very small. And what we've really tried to be intentional about is putting things together that make it really easy for parents and for families, and giving that away ahead of time at the start of the year and kind of laying out what this looks like. So an example would be to be in our theater production, that one participation fee, which can be from $100 to $150 for the whole thing, includes a hoodie and a t-shirt and meals and costume pieces, all kinds of stuff. So it's just such a small fee for really a big thing to be a part of. So I'm really proud of those things that we offer. And I think it does make the experience at Monte Vista very unique.
Agree. Morgan, let me stick with you, because we actually have a question that came in about dance. Is that also part of our fine arts program?
Absolutely. We have an amazing growing dance program. We have an amazing dance instructor. who is just, I was in a class today actually, and what they're doing is just absolutely amazing. So we were talking earlier about growth and students that just started dancing this year, and seeing what they're doing now, I'm just so impressed. So yes, we have dance classes for our high school, for our middle school, and it's just each year continues to grow and get bigger and bigger. And then because we have such a large strong theater program, we're seeing dancers get involved in theater and really want to, do the full triple threat, so they're taking vocal classes, and they want to be involved in acting classes, and they're dancers. And so they're just, musical theater is that medium where everything sort of crashes together, which is really, really cool. So lots of collaboration happening in dance is just, people are really into it. I would not be surprised next year if we have several other types of dance classes. Tap is really popular right now. So as it is right now, it's more of a like a dance fundamentals course that we're offering on different levels, that really talks about all different styles. But we're growing to the point where we could have, a tap track and that sort of thing, which is what we're headed towards. That's a great question.
Absolutely. Morgan, I'm gonna stick with you, but Bill, I also want to bring you in on this. And this is, I think, something that absolutely is worthy of being addressed. We are also an international baccalaureate school. That just means that we have shared language from department to department and courses to courses, and we believe in what is called inquiry-based learning. So it's not someone that's standing up in front of a classroom and giving a 45-minute lecture, but it's much more inquiry-based, where we're given ideas and engage in sometimes very challenging conversations to develop those critical thinking skills. The obvious question from that, and again, Morgan and Bill, I'd love to know your insights on this, but how is that balanced with extracurricular activities? In other words, is my child going to be up till 2 or 3 in the morning trying to get homework done just because they want to take part in a class play?
Yeah, I do teach some of our IB classes as well. DP theater is a really rigorous IB theater program, a 2-year theater program for our diploma program. And, I'm really, actually, from my experience, I'm really impressed with what we're able to do during our classes. So my students are doing most of their work in class. And so this year I have heard from many students, as we've are developing our IB program, that they don't actually have as much homework. The type of learning that we're doing, it's in for theater especially, it's very organic and it's in the space. It's very live happening, and there's not a lot that students are taking home with them to do. So it's not something that I've heard as much as we've gone in this direction. I don't know if Bill, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, that's actually been my experience exactly, because pre-IB, what I would do is I would have parents say, they would have to send an email every Sunday night and say, Peggy Sue practiced for an hour this week. And that's gone. We also use our class time to practice and that sort of a thing. And, I make it a point to say, look, you need to get to this, a big part of IB is backwards planning, and project based. I mean, that's kind of what we do already. If you think about a concert, that's a project in and of itself. And you sort of backwards plan, and you say, students need to be here by this time, and they need to be here by this time. And for some students, that means, that's there's not too much of an effort. So there's no busy work, it cuts out all the perfunctory red tape and that sort of a thing. But then it sort of gives the impetus for students that might be slightly more, that they might need to put a little bit of extra work to get to wherever the standard is. Then they're sort of, they're not penalized for not making it, which is beautiful. Because if they have if they don't quite make the mark that they want at a certain time, beautiful thing is, hey, come back in a week and try it again. And there's that sort of iterative mindset. So it's way more effective. And one of my favorite things is actually the grading, and how it just cuts out the busy work. Did you show up? You get a 5 out of 5, but you were just sitting there breathing and you were hardly doing anything. It's way more focused on the learning, as opposed to like, how do we, how can I give you an assignment just for the sake of giving you an assignment? So
yeah, and go ahead, Morgan.
I was just going to add, Bill and I and our whole department, we've talked about this at length this year and last year. The way that the philosophy of IB feels very organic in the arts. We were already doing a lot of those things before, because if you think about it, we are always doing iterations. It's always this process and rehearsals and fine tuning that whatever that piece of pottery and going back and getting the feedback and putting it through the fire and all of those things. It just really is organic for the arts. So I want to say that's how it is in our program, or that is how it is in our program. And I want to say I'm seeing that in other disciplines as well. So I think the question probably was also the other academics, like, are students overwhelmed, and after school, can they still participate because they have all that work? So I think that I have felt just a different experience and a different vibe since we have become an international school, where students, I feel like, are there are some students that are always going to be stressed. They're always going to it's kind of self-imposed, like, oh, I have all this stuff and all this work. But really, the way that it is designed, what I'm seeing is that so much can be done during the day, and there's a lot less pressure on students to do a lot of homework, hours of homework each night, which is then freeing up students to be more involved in athletics and in sports.
Yeah, and so for those that are watching and maybe don't know much about Monte Vista Christian's school schedule, so in a nutshell, and I invite you to go back and watch session 1 of these live streams if you weren't able to watch that, but for the most part, here's how things work. Each student has 8 classes, but they only take 4 classes per day. Each period is an 80-minute block. And again, that's not 60 minutes of an instructor giving a lecture. It's probably 20 to 25 minutes of that, give or take, depending on the class. And then the rest of the time, the students have to work on those assignments in class. So with the exception of maybe a long-term project that they're working on and given time to work on over the course of a quarter or semester, there's very minimal homework. The obvious places where there's a little bit of fudging with that is obviously if you're in an upper level science or math class, where there absolutely needs to probably be some iteration at home. And then one of the other things that Bill brought up, and I'll touch on just very quickly, is we have a very different approach to grading at Monte Vista. Bill, you mentioned the word mastery. And so instead of having the good old fashioned, I'm going to memorize a bunch of information to regurgitate on a test in my history class, only to forget it by the time I leave that history class, we no longer do that. We have formative assessments and models all along the way. The goal is to track progress. So each student is matched up only against themselves and not the rest of the class. So although I've had Bella and Sam in my class, I'll use Bella as an example. Bella came into my history class and we did a formative assessment at the very start of the semester. And although Bella in the real world scores much higher, let's say that Bella in fake pretend land here scored a C, or what would be a C. Over the course of the semester, she would have a chance to work on those skills and get better and better and better at those skills. And so even though she would have, quote unquote, had a C at that beginning, it really wouldn't have counted against her grade, because the only thing that she's truly graded on is her ability to demonstrate mastery by the end of the course. So she has plenty of chances to either redo some work to learn how to do those skills better, or I'm assigning as an instructor enough opportunities over the course of the semester for Bella to refine those skills. So at the end, I can confidently, as a professional educator, look at all of Bella's work over the course of the semester, which has no point value. The only thing I'm looking at is her ability to have upward trajectory and upward growth. And I can say Bella has improved tremendously, and therefore she has mastered this content and the skills within this course, and therefore she's going to get an A for that semester. So that's very different than a very traditional style of points on each and everything. And Bill, you even mentioned 5 points for showing up and things like that. So you take that with the block periods that learners are given and that time within that block period to work on their assignments. it really does lessen the overall amount of work that goes home on any given night. So it frees them up, right? We want our learners to be involved in athletics and the performing arts and fine arts and all those things. And the schedule is one of those ways that allows us to do that. I am looking at my live doc here and it's blowing up. So I'm going to try to get through some of these questions while we're all still together here. Okay, let's see. Bill, you mentioned both drumming and you mentioned marching band. Are those things happening right now? Is that part of the plan? Where are we with drumming and a marching band?
Yeah, so we offered a drumline percussion course. Marching percussion is one of my interests, definitely. Right before COVID, and then COVID sort of came through and it sort of twisted our numbers around a little bit. But they're definitely bouncing back. We're definitely on the rebound here. So there isn't a drumline course operating right now per se, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in. It's something I've done a lot of arranging for myself, and we'd definitely be open to something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been fun. I know right before COVID, and you had your band out there at football games and just in between plays and stuff. It was great. Here's another great question, and I want to bring this up. And absolutely, yeah, Bella and Sam, let me both bring you back into this. What are your insights when it comes to that balancing of extracurriculars with the school load, and how have you navigated that? And more so, within the past couple of years of having this block schedule than before. Sam, let me begin with you.
Well, IB has certainly worked to my advantage in terms of being able to manage my workload. As was previously stated, it's there's not a dedicated period of it's 60 minutes of a professor lecturing on whatever subject it might be, and then minimal time to work on it in class, and then the students left with this huge homework load from across the board. It's not like that. No. 20 minutes, 25 minutes, give or take, of a professor lecturing. And then the rest of that time is used for answering questions that the students may have, or to work on the material that they're given. And it's worked to my advantage because I'm heavily involved in the theater arts department, the performing arts, in the way of performing arts. And I don't feel stressed. I don't feel like that there's too big of a workload that's waiting for me, this impending doom at home. Like, oh no, I can only thrive in this theater environment for so long, and I have to go home and do more homework, and I'm maybe up late at night. No, it's actually a very fair and balanced system. And I think that that's wonderful.
Well said. And of course, Sam and Bill, you guys are going to be the awesome examples of this. And the asterisk with this, of course, right? And as a dad of a former teenager and one to become a teenager here in a couple of years, that works when you guys actually do the work in class. And you're not waiting to do it at home. Bella, but how about you? What's your experience been with balancing the load of both extracurriculars and the schoolwork?
Yeah, so when you're in this theater program, it's you have rehearsals that are a couple hours long, and then you get to tech week, and then they're 5, and you're up late at night, and it's a lot of work. And in the past, it was I get home at 9 and I'm up until midnight, and I have to be back at school at 8. Doing a bunch of work just because I didn't have time to do it in class. The teacher was just lecturing. But now with this IB program, it gives us a lot of time to actually get our stuff done in class. So we more time is free for us to do all of our commitments with theater and not have to worry about doing 3 hours of homework when we get home.
Yeah, absolutely. And Darlene, I want to pull you back in here because you have the vantage point of a parent in all this. And so from your perspective and seeing both of your kiddos be very involved with the extracurriculars, how have you seen the way we do scheduling and inquiry-based learning really be a benefit to their overall ability to balance their workload with their passions?
Well, I will say that my children are all in on everything. So for them, Sammy's laughing. He knows them well, that you could give them all the time in the world at school, but they'd still want to come home and study. For example, they're doing well in Spanish, but they want Spanish lessons. So I think I'm not probably a very good example, because they seem to be like uber interested in learning beyond what they need to right now.
Yeah.
So I actually believe that Sammy and Bella and their description and their interpretation of the work is probably better. I do believe, though, honestly, that with the IB, there is a lot more time in school to do work, and I haven't seen as many late hours as there were prior to. So I think it's helped, but I think, honestly, it's very individual. So I don't want to tell every parent out there that your kid's never going to come home and study till 10 o'clock at night. You know your children, you know what they're going to be like. They're going to be like that, whether it's IB or not, whether they have time in school. So
Yeah.
maybe you want to stay in their rooms to get away from me. Imagine that, right? That's not true, you guys, right?
No, never.
No.
What's interesting about that, though?
You're cracking up.
Yeah. What's interesting about that, though, Darlene, I think you actually were much more in line with Sam and Bella's responses, though, because you mentioned that they're wanting to do this out of their own passion. And how great is it that they have the time to pursue that? And if their passion is to take Spanish lessons or whatever else, they have the time to do so. So I love the fact that it's given your family that opportunity for them to pursue their passion. Darlene, I want to stick with you, and we're going to we want to honor our time here and those of you that are watching this. And so for our panelists, we're just going to try to get through these as quickly as possible. I'm going to give you all the same question, and I'd love if you could just kind of give me that first answer that maybe comes and maybe cap it around 10-ish or so seconds. But here's the question, and Darlene, again, I'll begin with you. And that is, someone who's watching this, someone who is still on the fence about whether Monte Vista Christian would be a good fit for them and their family, what's something that you would want them to know before we wrap things tonight?
Oh, 10 seconds. Okay, am I already done? No, I think that what you need to know is that Monte Vista cares about your kids. They sincerely do. They know them, they love them, they look after them, they help them, they guide them. I can't imagine a better place to be. If you have an opportunity to go there, go there.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Darlene. Mr. Tan, how about you? If someone's still on the fence, what is something that you would want that learner, the prospective perhaps sixth grader or prospective ninth grader that could join us here this coming school year, what's something you would want them to know?
Well, I think Darlene stole my word, because the very first thing that came to my mind was care. It was the word care. Like, we really care about each individual student. We really, I mean, if your son, daughter comes to school here, they will be seen, and every single teacher will follow up with them. I mean, there's this beautiful community. So I'll give you my second in line thing, and that is the food here. Cafeteria. So it's another C. The food is amazing. So yeah, throw that out there too.
There we go. Care and cafe. Morgan, how about you? As a director of fine arts and a member of the academic team at Monte Vista, what are some things that you would really want either parents or prospective learners to know to really help them make the decision to make sure MVC would be a good fit for them?
My word would be opportunity. We are committed to giving every student an opportunity to be involved and to do really cool things. And one of our values is crafting beauty. There is such an opportunity, and that's not just in the arts, but such an opportunity all around us to get involved and to craft beautiful things here at Monte Vista. And so that is something that I want to see every young person involved in. I have seen the impact it has in their life, and it's happening here. So if you're looking for a better place to see your student thrive and get involved, this is the place.
Awesome. And let's wrap things up with our experts. Sam, how about you? If there's either a family or perhaps a prospective learner out there looking to try and figure out if MVC is the place for them, what's something you want to make sure that they walk away with tonight?
Family. Look, we've thrown around the word family a lot this evening here, but at Monte Vista, family, it's not just like, oh yeah, haha, you're in our circle, yeah, you're part of the MVC family. No, I mean, you're part of the family. You're heard. We welcome you with open arms. We're here to listen to you. We're here to care for you on the student front, on the faculty front, the teacher front, everything. Family. It's really just this close connection with everyone. Absolutely everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Bella, how about you? What are your thoughts for somebody that might be on the fence wondering if MVC is going to be a good fit for their future?
So from a community perspective, it's a huge support system, and the support system here is amazing. And from someone firsthand, it's just really helped me to get through high school. And I know we've thrown around this word a lot, but everyone really cares for you. Like, whether it be the faculty, whether it be your teachers, whether it just be like your friends or students, everyone really cares for you, and it's really cool to see and really cool to experience.
Awesome. Great job. Great way to wrap it up. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us tonight. I want to thank you, of course, for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight and watch this. I also want to remind you that we've got a couple more sessions. Next Wednesday, we'll be talking to Director of Athletics, Matt Coleman, and we'll have also some MVC athletes, as well as some other folks joining us on that. So please stay tuned for that. That'll be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Same link that got you here. We'll get you into that one as well. And we would love to have you there. This particular session, as well as all the sessions, are going to be available on our website. The first two sessions are already available. You can find this session if you would like to review it, or perhaps pass it on to a friend or neighbor. You can expect to have it up in the next couple days. Lastly, I want to just go ahead and encourage you to please go ahead and feel free to reach out to our fantastic admissions team. You, of course, can email them at admissions@mvcs.org. We would love to meet you in person out on campus. Come take a tour, meet some of the folks that were on the panel tonight, and we would absolutely love to make you a Mustang. Thanks for joining us tonight. Take care. Good night.